And so this brings me once again to my Saturday superlatives. Obviously, looking back on Sunday and the players, not just from Saturday's games, but from the Friday, Thursday, and Wednesday, Tuesday, I guess, games as well. Maction. But I want to start with quarterbacks, and I want to start with one who is new to me, and new apparently in terms of this is, I believe, his first collegiate start, though he's played some in the past. Andrew Peasley of Utah State. 14 of 21 for 239 yards passing. He also rushed. He was the leading rusher for 118 yards. True dual threat. 3 touchdowns passing, 1 touchdown rushing. And his rushing touchdown came on a very nifty 62-yard scramble. Sort of doesn't do it. Saunter's not good enough. Gallivant. But he showed you something. He showed you a lot of things. A lot of the things that you look for in a once again, a true dual threat. Not just a guy who's not good at one thing, but a guy who's good at both. So he's going to be exciting guy to watch. And if he ends up being the starter at Utah State at quarterback going forward, they'll have their first really interesting full-on dual threat quarterback in a while. So I'll continue to watch. Ole Miss, Matt Corral, once again, putting up numbers, as he always does, puts up numbers, but he showed you some things in terms of starting to move defenses with his eyes and things like that. So if he continues to progress, he has a chance. 24 of 36, 385 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and once again, he avoided interceptions, which might be the most important thing about him. Sam Ellinger is a very divisive guy in draft Twitter. Some people hate him, some people like him. I've always liked him, and I agree that he may struggle to make the transition to the pros, but he's a really good college quarterback. Tough. One of those guys that has all those qualities, people always whip out gritty and whatever, but he is. I mean, though it's sort of a cliche, he actually is all those classic tough guy quarterback things, and it'll be interesting to see what happens to him if he has to change positions or if he ends up having to play at some other level other than the NFL. I could see him succeeding in Canada, but I like him. 17 of 29, 288 yards, a touchdown. Also had a 65-yard rushing touchdown on 15 carries. And, once a guy that does he miss some throws? Yes, obviously. Does he leave some plays on the field? Yes, obviously. But he also makes some plays that very few other guys could make. He'll be a fascinating guy to watch throughout the pre-draft process. Mack Jones, once again, some sort of a permanent fixture amongst my quarterback superlatives. 18 of 26, super efficient. 302 yards, 5 touchdowns, just 5 touchdowns. And once again, the crazy thing is he makes it look easy. Now, once again, he does play for Alabama, so it looks easier just because there's so much talent. But he's doing a lot of really interesting things. And I get that he doesn't have a super big arm and he's not super big, and he's not a freak athlete, but it's as if someone came up with a slightly larger Kellen Moore and gave Kellen Moore at least an Andy Dalton level arm. So once again, it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but I think he's going to make it. Moving on, Trevor Lawrence, welcome back, Trevor. Welcome back to college football. Welcome back to my superlatives. 26 of 37, 403 yards, 2 touchdowns, and once again, if you could have a ho-hum 403-yard passing day, that's what it was. Someone who did not ho-hum it is Will Rogers. A lot of high wire kind of things with Will Rogers. A lot of high risk, high reward quarterbacking, but that's how it is if you play for Mike Leach. But he has, once again, some qualities, and he's stepped in for Mr. Costello, and I like J.J. Costello, but he's clearly the better fit in this offense, and I hope J.J. Costello uses this extra year of eligibility maybe to double grad transfer, but there's places where I think he would be a great fit and where I think he would really prospect and flourish. So hopefully he'll find that place. But I could see him, showing up at, hey, Tennessee, how'd you like a quarterback who, I don't know, we'll see. I shouldn't be sending him to Tennessee. There's some place for him out there. Moving on. But Will Rogers, 46 of 61, so 45 of 61, 440 yards, 3 TDs, and once again, he stayed away from some of the big mistakes that have plagued him in the past. Moving on some more. Another guy that I've noticed in the past, but he didn't impress me so much, and it looks like he's evolving and developing as a quarterback, is Cornelius Brown. And people have compared him to a lot of other sort of rangy, big-armed quarterbacks from Randall Cunningham, etc. but he's legitimately about 6'4.5", or maybe even legit 6'5", about 202 pounds. Slender, but moves well, has a strong arm. 28 of 39 for 372 yards, a touchdown that he had through the ground, through the air, sorry. And he's just a redshirt freshman. So there's a lot to see what will come in and around for him. Here's a guy who has been up and down, but is back on the ascent, is Brock Purdy at Iowa State. A lot of people were super excited about him. I saw some people projecting him into the first round, which I thought was a little premature. Hopefully he'll come back and play next year, and I think he has a chance to push his way maybe into the first round discussion. Right now, if I had to put a grade on him, I'd put probably a mid-third on him. But he's, once again, I mentioned Andy Dalton. He's sort of Dalton-esque. But he was 25 of 36 for 312 yards and a touchdown, and once again, you saw him moving in the right direction. And here's a guy, why he doesn't get more love, I'll never know. Maybe it's because he plays in the Mack, but Dustin Crum is a baller, kids. Watch you some Dustin Crum. Find Dustin Crum. If you haven't found Dustin Crum, find some Dustin Crum. You're a person who really wants to be sort of plugged into the quarterback evaluation process. In terms of efficiency numbers, he's right there with a guy like Mack Jones, really. So, to introduce you, he is the Kent State quarterback. He is a senior, and once again, I guess he could exercise that extra eligibility. I don't think he will. I don't think he needs to, quite frankly. He's very mature. 22 of 32 in this last game for 343 yards. Obviously, Buffalo went nuts with scoring 70 points, but he was trying to keep up with them. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, but his interception ratio, his touchdown-interception ratio is 32-4. 3 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's completing passes at a 73.5% completion percentage, which isn't, it's crazy, but it's not as crazy as it used to be. Now, there's more people doing that now. The rules have changed, et cetera, et cetera. But he's got an arm. He's a smart guy. I hope that he begins to get more love and attention. I have an early second-round grade on him, and he could push his way into the first, in my mind, at least. I don't know what that's like. And he's not a dink and dunker. 10.5 yards per attempt, and his adjusted yards per attempt is like 11.5. He's a guy who pushes the ball down the field. So those are my Saturday superlative quarterbacks. Moving on to pass catchers next.